All right, let's get to the Middle East. After Iran attacked Jordan with missiles, our Matt Rivers is on the ground in Amman, the country's capital. Matt, thanks so much for being there on the ground, giving us kind of what's going on out there. We're seeing a lot of searches about Iran's surprise attack online, especially with their attack on Jordan. First of all, why Jordan, and what do we know about the attack?
Yeah, so what we've seen from Iran since the beginning of this war is that when they attack back, they're not necessarily attacking these individual countries, but rather Iran has been targeting U.S. military assets that are posted in this part of the world. So that's what happened yesterday with the United States military calling this a surprise attack from Iran. And they said that multiple U.S. military assets, there's a lot of bases here in Jordan where U.S. military troops are based. And so they were targeting the troops that were based there. And that's what we've seen. And when we're talking about Iran firing missiles at Bahrain or Kuwait or drones at Saudi Arabia or here in Jordan, it's mainly because there's U.S. military assets based in those countries.
And we also know the president responded saying that he would, quote, hit Iran hard. What exactly does he mean like that? What by that? What can we expect, Matt?
Yeah, good question. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we've heard from the president many, many times, and oftentimes he walks back without carrying out some sort of massive attack. What we know every single time, no matter what the conflict is, the U.S. military is a planning and logistics organization at the very end of the day. And what they do is they present the president with a range of options, whether it's more of a proportional response or whether it's an absolutely massive response. The president is going to be given all of those options, and it's up to him as the commander-in-chief to make the decision on what he does. Does that mean he's going to target civilian infrastructure like he's threatened to do before? That would be a massive escalation. Does he target more of Iranian nuclear research sites? That's an option. Or does he do something a bit smaller or nothing at all? We simply don't know at this point, and this is kind of the MO of the president since the beginning of all this. He talks a big game and doesn't always follow through when it comes to actually carrying out those sort of massive attacks.
We're all in the dark when it comes to the president sort of speculating about what could happen next. But when it comes to what we're seeing on search, we're seeing a massive uptick of people wondering about just how many weapons Iran has left. Do we have that kind of intel, Matt?
We do. I mean, I think on the one hand, there's no question that the initial response, the initial attacks carried out by Iran and Israel decimated huge portions of the Iranian military. They basically no longer have a functioning Air Force. They basically no longer have a functioning Navy, at least anywhere near what it was before. There's no question that the American-led attacks have had a massive, massive impact on Iran's military. That said, why have we seen U.S. deaths recently? Why do we see Iran continue to target those military assets I was just talking to you about? It's because they have a substantial supply of weapons left. And one of the key things in their arsenal is what's called a Shahed drone. These are drones that they send out with payloads, explosives on these drones. They cost about $30,000 each to make, and they have many, 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 many more drones, according to just about everyone you ask, every expert in this field. So they can continue to wage what's called asymmetric warfare against these U.S. military assets in this region for a long time to come, even if their broader military action has been degraded by a substantial amount.
Matt Rivers on the ground in Amman. Really appreciate your reporting, man. Stay safe out there.